don't like to think about how the king died. I like to remember him for the kind and just ruler that he was. His death was so sad and seemed very wrong somehow. Oh my, is that where the sign went? My grandmother and I must have slept right through the whole thing. Thank the light that those monsters didn't attack the inn. I remember Lazarus as being a very kind and giving man. He spoke at my mother's funeral and was supportive of my grandmother and myself in a very troubled time. I pray every night that somehow he is still alive and safe. My grandmother is very weak, and Garda says that we cannot drink the water from the wells. Please, can you do something to help us? Wait, before you say anything. My grandmother had a dream with giant slithering creatures in it. She also saw Pepin running from a house in the town. Do you think this means anything? I am afraid that I haven't heard anything about that. Perhaps Cain the storyteller could be of some help. This is something that is far beyond anything I have ever learned. I can only think of one person in all of Tristram who could help you. Cain, of course. When Farnham said something about a butcher killing people, I immediately discounted it. But since you brought it up, maybe it is true. How could you even think of going back to that place? What could be so important? If you have questions about blindness, you should talk to Pepin. I know that he gave my grandmother a potion that helped clear her vision, so maybe he can help you too. I've never heard of a Lacdanan before. Sorry, but I don't think that I can be of much help to you. Griswold's father used to tell some of us when we were growing up about a giant anvil that was used to make mighty weapons. He said that when a hammer was struck upon this anvil, the ground would shake with a great fury. Whenever the earth moves, I always remember that story. The story of the magic armor called Valor is something I often heard the boys talk about. You would better ask one of the men in the village. Those are the words of a drunkard. I don't see how they could be true. I heard that the priest Tremaine was going to perform an exorcism, but I didn't go. I don't see why we all have to spend every moment captive to what is lurking underneath our town. I know that many have died at the hands of these monsters, but we need to try to go on. I know that you have come here to free Tristram from the clutches of darkness, and I hope that one day we can live in peace again. If you are to battle such a fierce opponent, may light be your guide and your defender. I will keep you in my thoughts. A treasure map? Do you have it with you? Let me see. It looks like this is pretty old, and some of the buildings in the town are not on this map. Oh, I wish I could go and look for the treasure with you, but I have to start work soon. Well, a caravan of some very important people did stop here, but that was quite a while ago. They had strange accents and were starting on a long journey, as I recall. I don't see how you could hope to find anything that they would have been carrying. I think Ogden might have some mushrooms in the storage cellar. Why don't you ask him? The best person to ask about that sort of thing would be our storyteller. Cain is very knowledgeable about ancient writings, and that is easily the oldest-looking piece of paper that I have ever seen. Beg pardon, but have you heard what has been happening? Some of the men have vanished from the village. Disa's sons, Aeneas and Ruf, claim to have seen strange lights glowing deep within the woods a few days ago, but no one has heard from them since. I, too, have seen a crimson shimmering from beyond the ash groves, but I've been too afraid to approach it. I fear that Ogden or our healer Pepin may be next. Won't you please find out what has happened? Have you looked into what has caused those strange lights yet? There are more men missing since last we spoke, and I'm beginning to fear that soon we may all vanish. Demons that assume the form of beautiful women, you say? That's horrible! Thank the light that you solved this mystery before any more of our men were lured to their deaths. Thank you for keeping us safe from the powers of darkness once again. Pray your pardon, but I have something to tell you that you may find interesting. It was the strangest thing. While drinking at the tavern, Farnham was rambling about something called Azurath. He also said something about a fallen angel. It was hard to understand him because he was very drunk and disoriented, but I seem to remember something about a key in a barrel. He also kept covering his face and repeating the word Iswal over and over again. You know, now that I think about it, maybe it wasn't a key in a barrel, but a barrel that was the key. Does that make any more sense? Azurath and Iswal. I don't know why I didn't remember that story earlier. I've heard it often enough from my grandmother and Cain the storyteller. Well, I hope that my information was still more of a help than a hindrance. May light guide you, my friend. My grandmother often tells me stories about the strange forces that inhabit the graveyard outside of the church, and it may well interest you to hear one of them. She said that if you were to leave the proper offering in the cemetery, enter the cathedral to pray for the dead, and then return, the offering would be altered in some strange way. I don't know if this is just the talk of an old sick woman, but anything seems possible these days. I know that my grandmother's story seems strange, but the graveyard does have many mysteries surrounding it. It couldn't hurt you to put something there and see what happens, could it? Maybe you will find out something that will help us all. My grandmother had a dream about you last night. She said that in her dream you used your bare hands to defeat one of those foul monsters that lurk under the church. When it died, it exploded into fabulous treasure. Although she was a bit frightened by her dream, she was able to describe the beast quite clearly to me. My grandmother had that exact same dream again. She said you were quite brave and seemed very pleased with your prize. Good day. How may I serve you? My grandmother had a dream that you would come and talk to me. She has visions, you know, and can see into the future. The woman at the edge of town is a witch. She seems nice enough, and her name, Adria, is very pleasing to the ear, but I'm very afraid of her. It would take someone quite brave like you to see what she is doing out there. Our blacksmith is a point of pride to the people of Tristram. Not only is he a master craftsman who has won many contests within his guild, but he received praises from our King Leoric himself. May his soul rest in peace. Griswold is also a great hero. Just ask Cain. Cain has been the storyteller of Tristram for as long as I can remember. He knows so much and can tell you just about anything, about almost everything. Farnham is a drunkard who fills his belly with ale and everyone else's ears with nonsense. I know that both Pepin and Ogden feel sympathy for him, but I get so frustrated watching him slip farther and farther into a befuddled stupor every night. Pepin saved my grandmother's life, and I know that I can never repay him for that. His ability to heal any sickness is more powerful than the mightiest sword and more mysterious than any spell you can name. If you ever are in need of healing, Pepin can help you. I really don't know much about the priest Tremaine. He never visits the tavern, preferring to keep to the company of Pepin and Cain. Perhaps it is because they too have more scholarly pursuits. I grew up with Wirt's mother, Canis. Although she was only slightly hurt when those hideous creatures stole him, she never recovered. I think she died of a broken heart. Wirt has become a mean-spirited youngster, looking only to profit from the sweat of others. I know that he suffered and has seen horrors that I cannot even imagine. But some of that darkness hangs over him still. Ogden and his wife have taken me and my grandmother into their home, and have even let me earn a few gold pieces by working at the inn. I owe so much to them, and hope one day to leave this place and help them start a grand hotel in the East.